Hey there guys, I am here for part 4 of the Q&A, so I'll get started on answering some of these questions. I just want to say though that if you do have a question that you want to ask, I would go click the link that I've provided in the video description and ask the question there where everybody else has asked their questions. I've gotten a couple people who have asked questions on videos of me answering questions or on Facebook or Twitter, and that's great, but try to keep it all in one space because that's where I'm reading all the questions from. So I have a few more questions to go. I'll probably have at least one more video to do, so there's still time to ask questions, but just make sure you ask it in that video so that I will actually see your question. Alright, now that that's out of the way, I'll get right into answering some more questions. The first one comes from /8flash, who asks what my favorite underrated game is. Underrated is really a matter of opinion, I think, and a lot of the games off the top of my head that I can kind of think of have been big AAA titles, and I've played a couple of indie games on Steam and things like that, but there's not really anything that comes to mind. The one thing that I thought about, and I had to really think about this question because it is a really good question that really did make me think. The one thing that I can kind of think of that I would probably use as my answer is Magna Carta 2. This is my copy for the Xbox 360. When I did the Let's Play of this game almost 5 years ago, it was relatively unknown. Even when I did my Let's Play now, this year, still lots of people hadn't heard about it. The first Magna Carta game was on PlayStation 2, and the two games share nothing. They don't share characters, they don't share story, they're completely disconnected from one another. They only share the same title. And Magna Carta 2 is an Xbox 360 exclusive, so I think because of those reasons, being on one system, not having anything to do with the first Magna Carta game, it kind of is easy to sort of overlook it, especially if you are more of a PlayStation person or if it's just something kind of obscure that you have never heard of. And it is an underrated game that I always recommend to people. There was a lot of people who found out about it from my Let's Play, a lot of people who watched it and wanted to play it and get their hands on it, and I've beat it multiple times. I just found it, you know, in a bin at some store somewhere, and I thought, this looks really good. How have I never heard of this before? And if that wasn't the case for me, I probably would have never heard about it either, so that's probably the best answer for you that I can think of off the top of my head. The next question comes from the Dan402, who asks, what video game character did you relate to the most, were most attached to while playing a game? That's another hard question to answer because I feel like in every game that I play, there's always a character that I get attached to, there's always a character that I don't like. You know, I kind of go through that with every single game that I play, and there's not really any game character specifically that stands out, but I would have to say Lisa Garland is probably one of the characters that I say that I relate to the most, mostly just because she's a nurse and I work in healthcare, and for how common of a profession nursing is, you don't, you know, really see it much in video games. And when I played Silent Hill and you saw the struggles that she went through, it just really tore at my heartstrings, and it just made me really love Lisa more and more and more as time went on, and she is definitely one of my more favorite characters probably of all time, I would say. Other characters that I've been really attached to that I can kind of think of, games that I've played, you know, in the semi-recent years, are Lee Everett and Clementine. I'm very attached to both of them all throughout The Walking Dead, and it just grows stronger and stronger and stronger as time goes on. I mean, that game sets up the framework for those two as two fantastic characters. When I played LA Noire, which was probably last year or the year before that, I found myself being very attached to the main character, Cole Phelps. I don't know why, but he's another one that I became quite attached to while playing. And most recently, I finished Beyond Two Souls at the beginning of this year, and I was very attached to Jodie Holmes, who's the protagonist of that game. Just seeing her immense struggle as the game goes on and following her life and learning about her, I think she's a character who is very, very difficult not to get attached to. So those are just a few examples that I could think of off the top of my head. Next question comes from Ramondo Ramirez, who asks what my favorite color is and when did I realize it was my favorite color. My favorite color is, and probably has for as long as I could possibly remember, been purple. I love the color purple. I love pretty much all shades of it, and I have a lot of purple. Obviously my walls are purple, a lot of purple clothing, etc., etc. So definitely my favorite color. Next question comes from Virgil Lives, who is curious if I have ever played Agarest War. I have one of the Agarest War games on my 360. I pulled the one I have off the shelf. This is Agarest War 0. And I also have two other games in the series on my Steam, in my Steam library. I'm not quite sure the ones that I have. I think they're, one of them is Generations, but I haven't gotten around to playing them. I've seen quite a bit of footage. I've looked a little bit about the game up, and anyone that I've ever heard who has played it or who's told me about it has said that it is a very, very good JRPG. So it's not that I haven't played it because I haven't wanted to. It's just that I know the extent of the game, and knowing me, the amount of, you know, completion that I would want to put into it, and I always usually go with shorter games that aren't as complex. You know, the long RPGs and JRPGs usually kind of get put on the back burner, so it is something that I have looked into and something that has been recommended to me and something that I would like to try, but so far it is something that I haven't had the chance to try yet. Ryan Nolan asks, if I could make my own video game or have one made for you, what would it be like? I have been saying for years now, and you can ask a couple of my friends who will tell you, that I have pitched to them the idea of combining Harvest Moon and Grand Theft Auto and just putting them together. I don't know why this idea came to me, but something about combining the crazy, inappropriate, zany, just off-the-wall, nutty game like Grand Theft Auto with the peaceful and tranquil kind of innocent simulation category like Harvest Moon, I think would just turn everything upside down, and it would just make for a really good game. I don't know how that would turn out or how someone would go about doing that, but I just really like the idea, and if they do something like that in the future, I will be all over that. You know, I'll be in there like a dirty shirt, because I think that that has a lot of potential in my mind to kind of make Grand Theft Auto a little bit maybe more family oriented, but to make Harvest Moon a little bit more less family and G oriented, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of the only thing that I've ever thought of that would make for a really amazing game that I would really like to see that I don't think has been done yet. Next question comes from Zen5586, who asks me how differently I think my life would be if I had not started Let's Playing. Well, I'll never know, because obviously I did start Let's Playing, and thankfully I did. YouTube and the Let's Playing community, the video game community, has really given me a lot in my life. The people that I've met so many friends here on YouTube. a lot of whom I've met in real life. I probably never would have started going to cons with some of these people. I probably never would have traveled to different states to visit them. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to play games and hang out and meet all these people in real life. So I think that I would be a lot more lonely because I am a bit of a recluse. You know, I do prefer to socialize online, and that's not to say that I wouldn't find friends elsewhere, but a lot of the friends that I have now, I have met through YouTube, so I would be a lot less lonely. I would be a lot more bored. I would still always play video games. There's no doubt in my mind that that would continue. That's not a hobby that I would ever give up, I don't think. But just not having sort of a goal in mind with getting better with my speaking and my recording and doing the editing and the rendering and the uploading and kind of putting the work on the side to it, I would have a lot less to do when I actually played games, and I also wouldn't be able to track all the work that I've put in some cases, because it is nice to look back and see some of the stuff that I've done, some of the playthroughs I've done, and how well I've done them and how I can improve, and that is nice, and I wouldn't have that had I not started Let's Playing. You know, it would be just a hobby for the sake of it being a hobby, and not necessarily to network and to kind of make work of it and to meet people and to entertain and things like that. So I try not to think about what it would be like if I hadn't started, just because I think that I would be a lot worse off. I do play games a lot on my own, so I wouldn't probably make friends just by playing games. You know, I wouldn't have YouTube as that sort of in between. I wouldn't have this great network of subscribers that I have. There would just be a lot of things I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have gotten better with my public speaking. I probably wouldn't have been able to speak at my uncle's funeral, which was huge for me. That was something very important that YouTube kind of helped me with. So I think it would be different. It would be very different, but it would probably be different in a worse way. I don't see myself being much better off than I am today had I not started. And I think I have time for one more question, which comes from my friend Kuz on TV, who is wondering about doing a Harvest Moon Let's Play. I've really wanted to do one for a while, and I really want to learn how to get into the games A Wonderful Life to be more specific. Any tips or knowledge that might be basic or advanced knowledge? That's kind of a loaded and very broad question. If you're wanting to learn how to get into the games, that's kind of something you need to find out for yourself. If you want to learn how to play it, so to speak, it is a good kind of genre to go with, simulation, because it is your world, it is what you make of it, and you can explore a lot of different things. So what I would do is I would start with a game and I would look into playing it first instead of doing an LP of it, and I would look into all the different activities that are available in the game. Do you like cooking? Do you like mining? Do you like fishing? Are you more of an animal person, a crop person? Look at how to woo marriage candidates and how easy or how difficult you think that is, and just how much you kind of enjoy playing it. I kind of take Harvest Moon a little bit too seriously at times. I think I'm the kind of person who wants to do absolutely everything, cover as much content as possible, and just get everything all in at once to the best of my ability. But you may be the kind of person who just wants to play it a little bit more casually, play it at your own pace, just go with the flow and see how things go. So that would probably be my advice to you, is just get into playing at first, learning what you like and what you dislike, and then think about doing an LP around your play style. because you don't want to start doing an LP that is very specific, like I do, very in-depth, and then realize that, you know, you're not really an in-depth person, and that's boring, and you'd rather just kind of lay back and relax. It's nice to know those things ahead of time. So just, you know, take the time to do that, and then I would go ahead and start your LP and do what you want from there. I still have more questions to answer, but I am out of time, so I will be back and I will continue on with part 5 of the Q&A next time. Bye, guys.